In recent years, the military battlefield has seen unmanned systems steadily take over roles that used to be fulfilled by soldiers. On the ground, Ukraine is making prodigious use of robots for logistics and evacuation of wounded troops on the front lines, sparing humans from performing this incredibly dangerous work. Some ground robots are now being adapted for autonomous or remote-controlled combat roles, helping to minimize Ukraine's major disadvantage in manpower across a vast front line. But it's in the air where drones have already undeniably changed the face of warfare. Unmanned aerial vehicles perform reconnaissance, conduct long-range strikes deep behind enemy lines, and even act as motherships transporting smaller attack drones. However, there's one piece of equipment they haven't been quite able to replace: actual fighter aircraft. But all of that is about to change. Turkiye has just conducted another successful firing test of what is rumored to be the world's first unmanned fighter plane, the Bayraktar KIZILELMA. This innovative jet reportedly has unique capabilities that favorably compared to all the high-tech new weaponry coming out of the US. What's more, current prototypes are powered by a Ukrainian-built engine. So here's the full story of the KIZILELMA and its Ukrainian engine, and what it means for warfare of the future. The name KIZILELMA translates from the Turkish as red apple, a storied symbol in Turkish mythology representing distant but inevitable victory. But with each successive successful test, the vision becomes exponentially closer. Footage of the latest test of the KIZILELMA was revealed in July 2026. According to the manufacturer Baykar Technologies, a KIZILELMA with tail number S2 departed the Akkinci Flight Training and Test Center in Çorlu, Tekirdağ on July 8. Its destination? The 5th Main Jet Base Command in Mersifon, where the firing test was to be carried out. Following a series of preparations and tests at the base, the unmanned fighter aircraft took off with 2 supersonic Jet 230 missiles under its wings and headed toward a naval target. The KIZILELMA then fired its Jet 230 missiles and struck the target precisely at a range of more than 74 miles. It's a significant milestone. It represents another major threshold crossed, demonstrating the unmanned fighter's ability to conduct critical missions with air-to-ground supersonic munitions. Not too much is known about the Jet 230 missile that it fired, other than that it reportedly has a maximum range of over 200 kilometers or 124 miles. However, it's likely to be an adaptation of the Turkish UAV 230 missile, which the manufacturer Roketsan describes as a supersonic ballistic missile. The UAV 230 reportedly has a shorter range of approximately 93 miles. So if the Jet 230 is indeed an extension of the UAV 230, an increased range is one of the upgrades. But whatever the case may be, the successful tests with a supersonic missile confirms the growing offensive capabilities of the KIZILELMA. It's previously been successfully tested with the TOLUN, TOYGUN KGK, and LGK-82 munitions, all domestically produced in Turkiye, just like the Jet 230. But there's a striking difference between those other munitions and the Jet 230 that sets this latest test apart. The TOLUN, TOYGUN KGK, and LGK-82 munitions are all essentially guided glide bombs, not missiles per se. To be more precise, the TOLUN is a precise guided glide bomb, often classified as a guided bomb or short-range missile, developed by Turkish developer Aselsan. The standard model features GPS INS guidance, ideal for stationary targets like the one struck in the latest test. But there's also an imaging infrared or IIR variant available for engaging moving targets. The IIR version includes a two-way data link, allowing man-in-the-loop control for precise target locking right up until impact. The TOLUN has a range of around 55 nautical miles, an effective altitude of 40,000 feet, and a circular probable error or CEP of around 49 feet. It's specifically geared for attacking hardened structures with a bunker buster warhead capable of penetrating around 3.3 feet of reinforced concrete. The bomb is certified for use on Turkiye's fleet of F-16 Block 40 fighter jets. But it's also now available for use with the KIZILELMA, providing a highly precise, cost-effective solution for engaging hardened bunkers or moving vehicles at closer ranges with real-time optical confirmation. The successful test with the Jet 230 supersonic missile now additionally provides the KIZILELMA with a long-range, high-speed strike capability against defended or more distant targets, even those moving at sea. Similarly, the LGK-82 is a 500-pound class laser-guided bomb also manufactured by Aselsan. It's identical to the US's paved-way line in terms of layout. It can reach a range of around 7.5 miles when launched from fighter jets, and its laser guidance kit has been applied to NATO standard Mk-82 and Russian standard FAB series of general-purpose bombs. The Tebe-82 is a hybrid guidance kit that employs both laser and GNSS guidance. It comes in 3 variants: the baseline, a stubby wing kit intended for slow-flying platforms, and an extended-range wing kit. The range for the baseline variant is around 7.4 miles for fighters, which increases to almost 50 miles with the extended-range wing kit. Just weeks before the latest test with the Jet 230 in June 2026, another successful test using both the LGK-82 and the Tebe-82 was carried out using another high-tech piece of Turkish hardware, the TOYGUN Electrical Optical Targeting System, or EOTS. This is an embedded targeting sensor created by Aselsan specifically for low observable combat aircraft like the KIZILELMA and other advanced Baykar UAVs like the Khan and the Ankar III. Unlike traditional targeting pods that hang externally and increase radar signature, the TOYGUN is fully integrated into the aircraft's fuselage, preserving its stealth profile. This makes the KIZILELMA the first unmanned fighter in the world to feature an embedded EOTS, a capability previously found only on manned 5th-generation fighters like the F-35. During the test, a static target designated by TOYGUN 100 EOTS was hit with both bombs, proving the KIZILELMA's capability to perform stand-in strikes on its own, with the TOYGUN 100 EOTS acting as the main air-to-surface sensor. So, we knew the KIZILELMA could deploy high-precision glide bombs. Following the latest test, we now know that it can launch supersonic aeroballistic missiles against moving targets as well, a major new arrow in its quiver. But if you've been following the development of the KIZILELMA, that shouldn't be much of a surprise. Development has been proceeding at a rapid pace, with new features and capabilities seemingly being demonstrated every few months. The initial tests only commenced as recently as 2022, but such has been the pace of development that it's been in serial production since the summer of 2025, with first operational deliveries expected the following year. Perhaps in part due to the rapid iterations, when it went into serial production, it wasn't clear exactly which weapons it would be able to carry. But that's becoming more evident by the day, and it's impressive. In addition to guided munitions and supersonic missiles, the KIZILELMA is also expected to carry Roketsan's Sirit missile, a Turkish counterpart to the American APKWS. That will add the ability to take down Shahed-type UAVs to its growing range of targets. And that's likely to be music to the ears of one of the parties with the keenest interest in the KIZILELMA, Ukraine. Shooting down Russia's German analogues of the notorious Shahed has become somewhat of a national sport in Ukraine, and the more ways of bringing them down, the better. Unlike most of the other NATO members, the Turkish government has largely sat on the fence during the current conflict between Russia and Ukraine, retaining good relations with both. However, some of the nation's defense contractors have distinctly pitched their tents on the Ukrainian side of the fence. In particular, Ukraine has cultivated an expanding relationship with Baykar since the invasion began. In 2022, the company famously donated multiple units of its TB2 attack drones in response to crowdfunding campaigns in Ukraine, Lithuania, and Poland, refusing payment and directing funds meant to purchase the drones to humanitarian aid instead. Around 50 TB2s had been delivered to Ukraine by mid-2022, with additional direct donations confirmed in early 2023. Ultimately, their use in the early stages of the war petered out due to limited efficacy against Russian air defense and electronic warfare. But in recent times, Bayraktar TB2 drones have made a significant tactical comeback in Ukraine. Starting from around June 2025, Ukrainian TB2s have successfully engaged and destroyed Russian high-speed attack boats and landing craft in the Black Sea on multiple occasions. On September 3, 2025, for example, a TB2 destroyed a Russian high-speed attack boat carrying airborne troops near the Tendrivska Spit, a narrow stretch of land in the occupied part of Kherson Oblast. 7 occupiers were destroyed and 4 wounded, the Ukrainian Navy said in an official statement on Telegram. More recently, Ukraine's fleet of TB2s has been used for both reconnaissance and precision strikes against naval vessels and coastal encampments, exploiting gaps in Russian air coverage. and they appear to be doing the job effectively. For example, Ukrainian TB2s are believed to have destroyed 2 Russian naval drones in the Black Sea in June 2026. But Baykar's involvement in Ukraine certainly doesn't end at donations of TB2s. The company is in the process of building a massive drone manufacturing plant in the Kyiv region. In other words, it's moving from mere supplier to actual domestic producer. A September 2023 report revealed Baykar's intentions to invest $100 million in 3 projects in Ukraine. Then in February the following year, company CEO Bayraktar announced at the World Defense Show in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that construction had begun on the first of them, a major Baykar drone manufacturing facility in Kyiv. The plant is expected to produce around 120 large drones per year and employ around 500 people when fully operational. The aim is to assemble TB2 and potentially TB3 carrier-based drones, with plans to include the Akinci as well as the KIZILELMA. The facility was meant to be operational within 12 months. That hasn't happened. But given the intensifying infrastructure war that's taken place between Russia and Ukraine over the past year, it's understandable why completion has been delayed. By October 2025, the site had reportedly already been struck 4 times by Russian missiles, causing certain structural damage and material losses, according to the CEO. Still, construction continues regardless, and it makes plenty of sense for Baykar to insist on producing the KIZILELMA in Ukraine, because, as we mentioned, it's powered by a Ukrainian engine. However, which particular Ukrainian engine will be used in serial production remains to be seen. Now, if you appreciate deep dives into emerging weapon systems and technologies, alongside insightful analysis of the latest military news, you're in the right place. That's exactly what we deliver on the Military Show day in, day out. Subscribe to the channel and enable notifications so you're always the first to know. The concept of the KIZILELMA was first introduced in 2013, with detailed specs revealed in 2021. In the fall of that year, an integration agreement between Baykar and the Ukrainian engine manufacturer Ivchenko Progress was signed during the Saha Defense Expo. So, the intention has always been for the KIZILELMA and possibly other Turkish advanced drones to use Ukrainian engines. And while Turkiye is reportedly exploring alternative options, as far as anyone can tell, that remains the case today. The initial 3 KIZILELMA prototypes use Ivchenko Progress's AI-25TLT engines for subsonic flight testing, aerodynamic validation, and initial weapon integration. But starting from the launch of the 4th prototype, dubbed PT-4 in May 2025, the program appears to have transitioned to the more powerful AI-322F afterburning engine, also made by Ivchenko Progress. It's a move that makes perfect sense for several good reasons. For starters, there's the age of the 2 engines' designs. The original Ivchenko AI-25 was developed by the Soviet concern Ivchenko OKB in Ukraine. It was designed for the Yakolev Yak-40 tri-jet aircraft, often considered to be the first regional jet transport aircraft. Development of the engine began in 1965, the first test flight was made in 1966, and it was approved for mass production the following year. Ukraine-based aircraft engine manufacturer Motor-Sik, based near Ivchenko Progress in the industrial frontline city of Zaporizhia, continues to produce these engines to this day. However, as you'd expect, the variants being produced today have undergone significant modifications over the decades. The most well-known variant in use today is the AI-25TL. It was originally developed and designed for use by the Aero L-39 Albatros military trainer, which made its maiden flight in 1968. More than 3,000 Aero L-39 Albatros were produced in total, with 2,900 of them still in active service today. But the engines on most of those have subsequently been upgraded. Ivchenko Progress has been marketing an upgrade of the original engine, the AI-25TL-SH, since the 1990s. Another variant of the AI-25TL, the AI-25TLK, was also developed to power the Chinese Hongdu JL-8K8 Karakoram jet trainer. And now there's a new addition to the family, the AI-25TLT. It was built specifically to fulfill the requirement of a more powerful turbofan engine to power the KIZILELMA. Now, the AI-25TLT is a medium bypass turbofan engine with a dry weight of around 770 pounds. Producing around 3,790 pounds of thrust, it's more than fit for purpose for training aircraft and testing prototypes. But it doesn't pack enough juice to power the supersonic flight needed by the KIZILELMA. It can only really power speeds of around Mach 0.8 to Mach 0.9 at the standard cruising altitude of 35,000 feet, roughly 528 to 594 miles per hour. That's why the latest KIZILELMA prototypes have used the more powerful AI-322, and the production version will likely do so as well. The AI-322F is an advanced afterburning turbofan engine based on the AI-222-25F, another rugged Ukrainian engine manufactured by Ivchenko Progress. Compared to the AI-25TLT, it's much more powerful. It delivers 5,510 pounds of force in dry thrust and up to 9,900 pounds of force with afterburner engaged, almost 3 times more. This extra power enables the KIZILELMA to achieve supersonic speeds targeting Mach 1.4 to 1.6 or 924 to 1,056 miles per hour at 35,000 feet. And it also enables the unmanned aircraft to perform high-G combat maneuvers just like a modern manned fighter jet. Now, as noted earlier, it's unclear which engine will be used in mass production of the KIZILELMA for the Turkish Air Force and Navy, the KIZILELMA's first customers. However, due to all the successful tests during the AI-322F, it's widely believed that this will be the engine powering those deliveries, as well as those for the drone's first confirmed export customer, Indonesia. In May 2026, an agreement for the delivery of 12 KIZILELMAs was signed between Baykar and the Indonesian concern PT Republik Aero Dirgantara during the 2026 edition of the Saha Expo in Istanbul. The agreement provides for deliveries beginning in 2028, along with the establishment of localized production and maintenance and repair facilities in Indonesia. In Indonesia's case, the drones are likely to be operated by the Navy and integrated into the air wing of the aircraft carrier Giuseppe Garibaldi, whose transfer to Jakarta is expected shortly. The ship, decommissioned by the Italian Navy in 2024, previously operated AV-8B Harrier II jets, but modernization plans are known to include extensive use of unmanned systems like the KIZILELMA. The switch to the more powerful AI-322F engine moves the KIZILELMA from a prototype into a deployable asset that's obviously caught the Indonesians' attention. It enables supersonic speeds, even at the KIZILELMA's maximum takeoff weight of more than 18,700 pounds, with a payload of up to 3,300 pounds. But the newer engine does come with one or two trade-offs. It's significantly larger and heavier than the AI-25TLT, with a dry weight of around 1,234.5 pounds. The extra size and weight necessitated design changes in the KIZILELMA airframe to compensate, such as the larger air intakes and reinforced landing gear visible on the third prototype. The AI-322F also has more than double the fuel consumption of the AI-25TLT, especially in afterburner mode. 1.9 pounds of fuel per pound of thrust per hour, compared to around 0.8 for the AI-25TLT in cruise. That means the variant with the newer engine will have a reduced range unless the extra consumption is compensated for with larger internal fuel tanks. But larger internal tanks would ultimately be just one more impressive feature on an already enviable machine. It's stealthy. The airframe is specifically designed for stealth, featuring a low radar cross-section design with a canard delta configuration, 2 vertical stabilizers, and internal weapon compartments to reduce its signature. It's also practical. As evidenced by the intended Indonesian use, the KIZILELMA is constructed for carrier-capable operations. In the Turkish case, it's been specifically optimized for use on Turkiye's flagship TCG Anadolu amphibious assault ship without needing a catapult system. And it's advanced. The aircraft utilizes an AI-based mission computer for autonomous taxiing, takeoff, landing, and flight. Its sensors are also cutting-edge, including the Aselsan Murad ESA radar, the Carrot infrared search and track system, and the aforementioned TOYGUN EOTS. As for its weapons array, as we've seen, that's expanding with each new successful test. And that lends credence to Baykar's claim that the KIZILELMA is the world's first autonomous fighter jet. Of course, it doesn't pack the feature set or awesome power of the most advanced Western jets like the US's F-35 Lightning II. But the KIZILELMA's current feature set does place it in the same near 4.5 generation unmanned fighter capability ballpark as, say, the latest F-16 variant or Chinese J-10. But with two major advantages. Firstly, while certainly not cheap, it's likely to be significantly cheaper than equivalent manned fighters. The estimated unit cost of KIZILELMA is projected around $30 to $40 million depending on the specifications. That places it at a highly competitive price point compared to the roughly $85 to $115 million for a new F-35A and $80 million for a new Dassault Rafale. Even the latest Block 70-72 variant of the F-16 has a unit cost of anywhere between $60 and $100 million depending on the support package. Secondly, and most importantly, there's no pilot. That means that KIZILELMA can be flown into much more hazardous situations than an equivalent F-16. Sure, if it gets hit, it's an expensive and damaging loss, but nowhere near as expensive and damaging as extended search and rescue operations for an ejected pilot of a hit manned fighter jet. Or of course, losing a pilot entirely. Given these advantages, you might suspect that many nations are hot on the heels of the Turks trying to develop unmanned fighter jets of their own. It is, after all, a technology that has the potential to eventually make human pilots altogether obsolete. But that's not really the case. Nations like the US, Australia, China, Russia and India all have unmanned fighter jets comparable to the KIZILELMA in development or testing. But where the KIZILELMA is conceived as a standalone fighter, all the others have a different primary objective: a loyal wingman to manned fighter jets. The US's Kratos XQ-58 Valkyrie, for example, is designed to escort manned fighters like the F-22 and F-35. It's also subsonic, Mach 0.85 or roughly 650 miles per hour, and significantly cheaper at $3 to $4 million per unit. Australia is also testing a loyal wingman developed in conjunction with the US, the Boeing MQ-28 Ghostbat. Designed for sensor fusion and weapons carriage alongside manned jets, it features advanced AI and stealth characteristics like the KIZILELMA. However, it's also subsonic and focuses on teaming rather than independent supersonic strike missions. Russia is testing a loyal wingman of its own, the Sukhoi S-70 Okhotnik B, designed to accompany its Su-57 fighter. It's a large flying wing drone in the 20-ton class with a massive payload capacity of 2.8 tons that far exceeds the KIZILELMA. However, it's also subsonic and has faced a development path at exactly the opposite end of the spectrum to the Turkish plane. It's faced endless issues, including the loss of a prototype in 2024. The Chinese also have a loyal wingman program comparable to the KIZILELMA, and theirs is already operational, deploying to high-altitude bases in Tibet in 2025. The Hongdu GJ-11, or Sharp Sword, is a flying wing design optimized for stealth rather than the fighter-like aerodynamics of the KIZILELMA. Like the other loyal wingmen, it is subsonic and carries a heavy internal payload like the S-70. But while it's capable of deep penetration strikes on its own, it's also primarily meant to function as a wingman to Chinese fighter jets. There is one actual direct competitor to the KIZILELMA in development, i.e. an unmanned aircraft intended to be a fighter jet rather than a wingman. India's Future Unmanned Fighter Aircraft, or FUFA. Intended as a supersonic air dominance drone, it aims for supersonic speeds of greater than Mach 1.5 and air-to-air combat capabilities, like the KIZILELMA. But it's way behind on the development curve compared to its Turkish rival. In fact, it's still in the design phase. So for now, the KIZILELMA stands out as the world's first and only unmanned fighter jet. Pilots can rest easy knowing that, unlike so many other professions, AI isn't going to make their jobs obsolete. At least, not quite yet. Now, given the relentless pace of development of the KIZILELMA, there are bound to be new tests and new capabilities unveiled in the near future. We'll of course be keeping you updated on developments, so subscribe to the channel to hear about them first, and in the meantime, check out this video about how Ukraine is building a robot army.